What's up guys, LeopoldTheBrave here, and the Minefield just released for Crash Team Rumble. And with the release of the Minefield, we now have all the brand new content for Season 2. There's still a couple weeks left in the season with repeating events and such, but with all the content released, I think it's about time we give it a review. Just going over everything and giving feedback so they can do even better next season. So, you know how in Season 1 they had amazing patches, communication with the devs, and quality of life changes, and it was the content and events that were kind of mediocre and needed improvement? Well, Season 2 was pretty much the exact opposite. Where the content and events were the ones that were amazing, and it was behind the scenes of the game that seems to have taken a nosedive. But we'll get to that eventually. First, let's cover all this new content and the amazing things that came with this season. We kicked the season off with Party Mode, a new way to play the game which we desperately needed. With it came 4 mini-games: Speedrun, a race around an obstacle course; Get Lit, where you light up a bunch of lanterns; there's Dig It, where you collect fossils and rebuild a skeleton; and What's Cookin', where you collect ingredients and toss them in a pot. They even added a 5th one, Balloon Bounce, mid-season. All of these mini-games also came with their own unique boss battle. At first they seemed a bit too hard, but I think everyone got used to them. By the middle of the season I hadn't seen any more complaints. It wasn't just Party Mode though. We also got Toys for Bob Labs, where the developers would throw experimental modes at the wall to see what sticks. And to be honest, while I do greatly appreciate the developers' efforts in this mode, most of what they put out was extremely forgettable, doing nothing more than altering a setting of the game. For example, how many Wumpa Fruit you need to bank, how many relics you need to unlock stations, banks that alternate after a certain period, having a singular bank. They felt more like rule set adjustments rather than brand new game modes. I think Wumpa Whale was the absolute worst. There were a couple gems though, like Capture the Flag. It did have its problems, but I think if it were fully fleshed out into its own mode, it would be great. But no doubt the best one was Entranced. Basically, there's a dance floor that moves across the map, and you earn points for your team by staying in the dance floor. Definitely the most chaotic, most fun, and has the most potential as its own full mode. I also suggest adding some kind of XP bonus for Toys for Bob Labs. If you ever missed the first day of a new mode, it pretty much became impossible for you to find a full lobby. Regardless, both Party Mode and Toys for Bob Labs were excellent new additions. Our new character this season was Ripto from the Spyro series. It was a bit of a bummer to get one character this season instead of 2, but we got 2 maps instead, and those amazing new game modes. And though it was a bit odd to have Ripto before Spyro, I guess to fit the Halloween theme, ooh, spooky villain, he is still extremely fun to play, even though he's also extremely weak. I wouldn't say he's the worst character in the game or Brio levels of bad, but he's cutting it pretty close. But as long as he's fun to control and play as, that's all that really matters. Map-wise, we got 2 pretty big ones. First up is Waist Deep. This is a tall map, based on one of the final stages of Crash 4. There's lots of vertical layers to it, and the Epic Relic Station is pretty good too, with the Shrink Ray. Definitely in my top 3 favorite maps in the game so far. Next up is Jazz Junction, a really pretty map. With all the colors and the sugar skulls and the jazz, it's like a gorgeous fusion of Dia de los Muertos and Mardi Gras. The relic stations here aren't as fun though, and the layout is pretty basic. It's hard to formulate and develop new strategies for this map, and every match on it appears to go the same way. And last but definitely least, we have a new power, the Minefield. Once activated, every single jump you do will spawn a mine behind you. And they're gigantic and super easy for the enemy to spot and avoid. They also spawn pretty slow, so you can't really use it to defend yourself if an enemy is chasing right behind you. When you think of a minefield, you think of a super sneaky explosive that you can place where the enemy won't see, and then they'll trip it by accident. But these are not sneaky at all. They're super massive, spawn super slow, and don't do much against your opponents unless they hit multiple of them. Definitely a bottom 3 item in the whole game. But that's about it for the new content this season. I know we ended that part on a sour note, but overall I'm very pleased with all the new additions we got. Now we get to the updates and patches and adjustments, and oh boy, this ain't gonna be pretty. Kicking off the season, there was actually a really good change, where they reduced the amount of XP you need to level up in the Battle Pass. So now it's even less grindy than before. I only played during the event days, and yet I still completed the Battle Pass halfway through the season. That's very good. But everything else, however, yikes. Character balancing was quite a ride this season. Coco and Cortex got some much needed nerfs, and Tana got a much needed buff. But a couple other characters suffered pretty hard, like Ripperoo. They nerfed him really bad. They pretty much broke his entire character and had to revert some of it halfway through the season. And Brio, poor Brio, they apparently had to rework his entire character in between seasons. But not only is he still the worst in the game, But now he's completely glitched. If your own slimes are on your own team's bank, then you'll deposit Wumpa even slower. It's such a mess, but not as much of a mess as the powers. Every single update, they just kept going back and forth between which role needed to do what to charge up their powers faster. No matter how much they tried to fix and balance it, there was always one role that would have a huge advantage over the others. It was fine back in Season 1, I don't know why they ever changed it. And geez, the balancing of these powers themselves. Let's just say for a good 75% of the season, it was Flytrap Spitter Central. I'm glad they reverted a lot of these nerfs, but it's still pretty bad. But even the powers this season weren't as broken as some of the maps. Tar Valley's issues were so bad they flat out removed it from competitive mode for the rest of the season. I don't know what happened to the netcode, but it also got horrendously worse this season. During Season 1, I had a consistent ping in the 30s and 40s with a full 4 bars. But in Season 2, I'm lucky if I can even get it under 70, and oftentimes it would drop over 100. Even outside of gameplay, the game is busted now. There's this customization glitch that resets Crash, Coco, and your profile to the default options every single time you start up the game. It's been like that since the season began, and it's going to be like that until Season 3 starts. Now, all of these issues wouldn't be nearly as bad if it weren't for the lack of communication from the developers. It took them ages to even acknowledge these problems, and apparently they found solutions, but we're not going to see them until the next season. That is extremely odd and extremely uncool. Toys for Bob, I don't know if you know this, but bug fixes shouldn't be a feature or piece of content you use to advertise a season. They should be top priority, fix ASAP no matter what you have on the calendar. Ooh, that was a doozy. Overall, I'm gonna have to give this season a rating of 5.5 out of 10. Pretty much the exact same as the last one. There was a lot of really great content added, and thanks to the reduction of the XP needed to complete the Battle Pass, accessing that great new content was a lot easier. But the game itself that you play with this content in is completely falling apart. So many balancing issues and glitches and lack of communication from the developers. It's honestly gotten pretty messy. Now on Twitter, it's recently been revealed that there's actually a small handful of Toys for Bob's devs that are actually working on Crash Team Rumble. A team of about 20 to 30 something. And while on one hand it makes me want to be less harsh towards them because I was pretty harsh in this review, on the other hand it makes me wonder why they're even working on a competitive live service multiplayer game like this in the first place. They really need more help, and it makes me a bit worried for the game's future. Now I am still excited for Season 3, I can't wait to play as Spyro and Elora and try out whatever Spyro map they add, but I have no idea what else is coming with them or even what's coming afterwards. Not even the data miners have found much beyond a Season 3. With how glitchy, broken, and unstable the game's becoming, the dwindling player count, the lack of promotion and marketing from Activision, how super small the team working on the game is, and the fact that the data miners can't even find a future for this game, I can't say I'm super positive. I'm of course never going to give up on this game, but I won't be surprised if Season 3 is the grand finale. If the game is reaching its end, then hopefully this shaky rumble will lead to them going out with a bang. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think of Season 2, and what are you excited for in Season 3? I'll read your comments and see you guys next time. LeopoldTheBrave, out.